So the bumper we're going to be talking about today is the LED Kingdom US full width front bumper. As you can see, it's really wide, and that's because it stretches all the way from the edge of the fender on the driver's side all the way to the other edge of the fender on the passenger side. A full width bumper like this is going to provide you with the maximum amount of protection. A stubby bumper ends about right here, and a mid-width bumper ends about right there, and they're not going to protect the tire or fender as much as a full width front bumper is. Now your Jeep's already going to come with a full width bumper from the factory, but a key difference is the factory full width front bumper is just straight across, while a bumper like this goes up to meet the fenders. In my opinion, that's a better look just because it kind of matches the body lines of the Jeep. But as far as functionality, that gives you a lot of clearance underneath, so you can clear obstacles that you definitely couldn't do with the stock bumper. Anyway, a few features of this particular bumper. First up, we have a removable bull bar with 2 light mounts on top. Secondly, we have integrated fog light mounts on each side of the bumper for your stock or aftermarket fog lights. And then lastly, we have a recessed winch bay with a cutout for the factory vacuum pump. Also included with the bumper are the instructions, mounting hardware, and 2 D-rings. Now the first step in the bumper install is obviously going to be removing your stock bumper. Unfortunately, I no longer have a stock bumper, so I can't walk you through the removal process, but it's pretty simple, and if you just type in Jeep JK front bumper removal on YouTube, you'll find dozens of videos that walk you through it step by step. So first up in the install is putting on the winch. For me, this just involves securing the fairlead to the front of the winch, then securing the winch to the bumper using 4 bolts. I decided to go ahead and do this before I put on the bumper, but you could probably do it once the bumper was on the Jeep as well. Next up is the bull bar, and all we'll have to do for it is hold it in place, set in each of our 8 bolts, and then on the bottom side, set in our washer, lock washer, and nut. To tighten these nuts down, we'll need a 14mm socket and an Allen key to hold the top in place, and we'll tighten them all down to about 15 foot-pounds. Lastly, we can mount the fog lights by just setting them in place and securing them with the factory screws. Now you are supposed to reuse the factory screws that come with the stock bumper, but since I no longer have access to the stock bumper, I'm just using these Torx head screws instead. So since the new bumper will have our fog lights mounted out further than their stock location, we will need to extend the wiring harness. Now you can do this DIY by just cutting off the end and adding some wire, but if you do that, make sure that everything's waterproof since this area is likely to get wet. If you want to go with the kind of pre-built wiring harness option, I would honestly suggest go ahead and upgrading to some aftermarket LED fog lights. That's because many of them come with this adapter harness that converts the standard Jeep to, I think, a H11 for the fog lights, and this is going to be plenty long enough, I think, to get the job done. Many of the fog lights include this stock with the fog lights, or you can buy the wiring harness separate for like $10 to $15. If you want to buy a wiring harness that allows you to run the factory fog lights, those are actually like $30. Fog lights aren't that expensive, so I would just upgrade them instead. Last up is actually putting the bumper on the Jeep, which might require 2 people. We're just going to set it on and then put a washer, lock ring, and nut on each of the 8 bolts coming at it from behind the bumper. We'll tighten these down with a 17mm socket to around 30 foot-pounds.